Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics of the sphere, Working overtime to bring you many stories. Waking up today, the same Labour and Tories. A stage it is and our part to play is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact. Much like the words on those Christian tracks.
Good evening and welcome to the Belfast Bapcast. This evening we have Michael Gamal. He is 38 years old. He was born into an American Coptic Christian family. He spent nearly 2 decades inside the pro-Palestinian movement, even by his own account sympathizing with Hamas before a change of heart. So tonight is it's not a trial, it's not an execution, it's an inquest, just a space to look for truth and not to score points. So my measure is the Bible, but I stand obviously as a person who's flawed and not as above anyone. So my aim is to understand how conviction forms, how it breaks, and whether it can be rebuilt through honesty and light. So Michael, start if you could by just telling us in the simplest possible terms what changed to make you go pro-Zionist.
That's sort of a culmination of moments. I remember a few weeks after October 7th, it was like I was in San Diego with a couple of friends of mine and we were bar hopping. And I remember reaching a red light, and at this red light, there's some sort of structure in front of me. And on the structure, there's posters of the Israeli hostages. And the only thing that was going through my mind was how people, I think either in Toronto or New York City, they were defacing the posters of the hostages. And that was like the closest thing I had to like a outer body experience. It felt like the blood in my veins evaporated. I remember saying to myself, like, you might be a piece of shit for supporting some of the stuff that you do, but you're not such a piece of shit that you would deface the posters of the hostages. I mean, that moment lasted maybe 15 seconds, but it lasted an eternity. And, you know, I sort of went on my way after that, didn't think much about it. Afterwards, well, actually, before I had that moment, my dad reached out to me, called me. He said that he was concerned about some of the things that I was posting online in support of the Palestinians, and he wanted to have lunch with me. And my dad and myself, we'd always, butted heads politically on this issue because both my parents actually supported Israel and didn't support the Palestinians in any capacity whatsoever throughout my entire life. And he just sort of sat me down and he told me, like, listen, Habibi, like, you need to know that what Hamas did to Israelis on October 7th is, exactly like what ISIS was doing to people in Iraq and Syria. They raped, they murdered, they burnt people alive, they mutilated people, they beheaded people. And he just sort of told me that he was afraid that if I kept continuing down this path, that I would lose like the things about me that, like that he loved about me, like he thought that I would sort of like just become
That's a very sensitive topic currently. So just to define where we're both coming from, what does Zionism mean to you? Is it the political Zionism, as in like Theodore Herzl, Ben Gurion, or is it religious Zionism, the return of the Messiah, or what does Zionism mean for you?
I mean, Zionism to me is what it is to what I would say 99.9% of people who identify as Zionist. They just believe that the Jewish people have a right to a state of their own in their ancestral homeland. That's sort of the baseline definition of Zionism.
Right comes from where?
The
Bible. The right comes from the Bible, and that's that's where that's based upon. So is it from a political or
not necessarily based from the Bible? It's just that the Bible, if you take it as sort of like a historical document, it does, provide the history of where the Jewish people did live, and build their culture and build their society, build their identity. I don't say because my argument isn't that God gave the land to the Jewish people. I never use that argument.
Okay.
Historically, they have lived on that land and they've had They've had a continued presence on that land for 3,800 years.
A mixture of both, sort of thing, or
Sorry, come again?
are you saying it's sort of like a mixture of both? Then it's like a political Zionism and like a biblical rite of passage that you're coming from, or
It's not biblical at all for me, because even if you take away the Bible, it doesn't change the fact that they've had an unbroken 3,800-year presence on that land. The Bible is just sort of like, if you want to use it as like a supporting document to back up like history and archaeology, you can use it. But it's not like I have this religious, devotion to the Bible. I don't believe in like a lot of what the Bible says. For instance, I don't really believe in the story of Exodus.
okay. What about the amount of time that the Palestinians were there before the Israelis started to settle?
Say that again?
What about the amount of time that the Palestinians were on the land before the Israelis started to settle?
Well, the Jews were still on that land, and they weren't called Palestinians at the time.
And they were living side by side with Palestinians, both Muslim and Palestinian Christians, and it was actually quite a harmonic.
No, it wasn't.
Well, it historically was.
No, would you consider being prevented from your holiest places harmonic?
They weren't prevented from their.
Oh yeah, they were.
Place.
Yeah, they were.
Do
you know the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron?
I do not. No.
That's the second holiest place in Judaism. After the Muslims took over, they prevented the Jews from advancing past the seventh step on it.
Okay.
And the holiest place on the Temple Mount, they're still not allowed to go there.
So it is biblical then? This all comes back to...
No, I'm not saying it's biblical. I'm just saying that, these places are holy to the Jews, right? It's sort of, it backs up the claim that they were there, all right? The Temple Mount, the site of the, former the two temples. And my point of contention was that you saying it was harmonious, and it wasn't.
Well, certainly not. I mean, nothing's a utopia, but it was certainly a better state than it currently was. And
I would highly disagree with that. I would highly disagree with that.
There's no issues with disagreeing. So your turn was the October 7th and seeing the pictures of the hostages, and
that was the beginning. I didn't really leave the pro-Palestinian stuff until like officially, completely, silently in May of 2024. That's when I remember taking down all my pro-Palestinian stuff on my personal profile. Free Palestine, scrubbed it. Every single post I made about Palestine, scrubbed it.
By being pro-Zion, what does that even mean to you? Like, you say like you're wanting to fight the information war against Israel. So what does that look like? What is the information war against them?
Well, actually, I could just use our interaction just now as part of that information war, because you said that it was a harmonious living, and it wasn't.
Well, I mean,
there is that myth that prior to the state of Israel, that Muslims, Christians, and Jews just got along great, and that was not the case at all.
No, as I said, obviously nothing's utopia, but it was certainly a better condition than what it currently is.
I mean, what would you consider utopia?
Well,
do you think the fact that Omar was a utopia? Do you think not being able to build any houses of worship a utopia?
I think utopia is impossible. That's what I'm saying. Nothing's a utopia. Nothing's without flaw.
Do you think being a dhimmi is utopia? I mean, not. You said less than. I mean, do you think being a dhimmi, a second-class citizen under Islam, that's something that they wanted to be? You think that would be better than today?
No, but I mean, it's certainly not nice to then reverse that, is it? To make them, the Palestinians, a second-class citizen under Zionist rule.
They're not second-class citizens.
Well, they are. By law, they're only allowed to drill a certain amount down for water, etc. And there's many laws written in. I mean, even yourself and myself in the Talmud are considered goyim, non-Jew. They do not like anyone that is non-Jewish. They've never assimilated into any society that they've
Have you read
I've
the
really
Talmud?
joined. Yes, I've read certain bits of it. Yeah,
How much have you read of it?
enough.
I mean, how much though? Like, what's in the
Excerpts of it,
Talmud?
certainly not loads. I've read like certain Sanhedrin scribes, and I've seen like the enough bits to disgust me, not to read anymore.
What would you? How
Um,
would you describe the Talmud?
um, as written law by uh, man. That's
I mean,
certainly
there
not
are some
inspired
laws
by
in there.
God.
There are some laws in there, but the actual, like, if a more accurate description of the Talmud would be that it's sort of a collection of opinions and debates between
It's like
rabbis.
pontification, but I mean, there is certainly like different types of Jews. You know, there's Talmudic Jews, there's Messianic Jews, there's Orthodox Jews. It's not all one type. You know,
I mean,
there's Jews
if
that
you
outright
spoke with a
deny the
Jewish
Talmud.
person, sorry, continue.
I said there's certain Jews that would outright deny the Talmud. You know, it's not all. It's not one is everything. You know, not all Jews are Talmud believing, but it's certainly a problematic book and a
I
problematic
mean,
text.
most Jews don't apply the Talmud at all. I mean, if you ask most Jews within a lot of, well, I'm not going to say most Jews. Well, yeah, most Jews don't apply the Talmud at all. I would say that a great deal of Jews don't even know what's in the Talmud.
Based on what?
Based on my interactions with them.
So how many have you interacted with to say most?
I would say thousands upon thousands of Jews that I've interacted with.
So
You know, and
you're
the ones that live in Israel, you know, the ones that are more religious, yeah, they probably know a decent more about the Talmud, but the vast majority of Jews are secular. You know, even the ultra Orthodox in Israel, they don't make up any more than I think 25 or, you know, yeah, about like 25, maybe 30%. And Israel itself
so
isn't like a, you know, it's not like the state is run by halakha, Jewish law.
how can you pick, you know, either side in a war? You know, what happened on October 7th certainly was not nice, but the reaction to it has been horrific as well. So, you know, both sides have guilt, both sides have committed atrocities. So, like, how can you pick one over another?
Because of a pattern of behavior from the Palestinian Arab Muslim side.
What would you expect other than their pattern of behavior, considering that, you know, these people have come in in certain instances, moved them out of their houses and took them with no reparation whatsoever,
Well,
because they believe that they
since
have
when
a
do you
divine
start a
right to.
war? I mean, they did start the wars.
How would you not be in a war state if you were treated in that way?
Well, depending on what part of history you want to, you know, I mean, what point you want to start history from, regardless,
From
they're
the
the ones
point
that
that
have.
Israel was birthed, which was in around the 1940s. So, I mean, they started coming over to settle, and then they ended up displacing Palestinians from their homes, and then treating them as second-class citizens, and then obviously created a monster. And well, I mean, Mossad does also fund Hamas as well. So
The Mossad funds Hamas,
certain parts of it, yeah.
right? Like how far are you going back into this? Are you saying that Hamas, like that they funded Hamas recently?
Well, I mean, I'm not there for the transactions. I'm only saying that I'm aware that they have funded Hamas.
No, so they did not fund Hamas. What you are calling funding Hamas is when Hamas was emerging out of a Islamic charity in the late 70s, early 80s. And what the Israelis did was they permitted Hamas to grow. They gave them, you know, permits and stuff like that. And, you know, Fatah was their immediate rival. And at the time, Hamas, because it emerged from a charity, it was primarily focused on charitable works. They were providing social services and things like that. And so Israel, thinking that's a good thing, because that would take a little bit of responsibility off their shoulders, they allowed it to grow. Then in the late 80s, it started to become a more violent movement. And even if you want to bring it up to the recent day, right? It's not like Israel funded Hamas. No, Israel allowed Qatari money to go to Hamas so that they can pay salaries.
Is it even like a moral standpoint for your change to Zionism, or
What's that?
is it a moral? Was it a moral standpoint your change to Zionism?
It's quite all-encompassing. It's a historical standpoint. It's a moral standpoint. It's sort of like a realignment of my, a better alignment of my values.
And what are your values? Like what?
Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of protest, rights for LGBT, freedom of religion. Israel's the only country in the Middle East that provides that.
So Babylonian stuff, basically.
What do you mean Babylonian stuff?
Well, smut, like exactly what you just described in the end there,
Smut?
LGBT stuff, etc. Like everybody has a right to exist, but it should not be written into laws. You know, if Israel is saying they're there by divine right, where's the divinity in their law structure?
I mean, it's not meant to be a religious state. It's not meant to be a religious state.
Well, they can't pick and choose. They can't say they've got a divine right because of the Bible and then not be religious on the other hand.
Some people think it's, it's a divine right. There are evangelical Christians who think it's, a divine right for them to be in that land. I'm sure there's, religious Jews who think that. But the state in and of itself doesn't function as a religious state.
Would you not agree, though, that most of the current Jews that are there from Eastern European aren't even like genetically tied to the land?
I mean,
there's no Semitic DNA in them.
Did you give them all a DNA test?
Certainly not, but I know quite a lot of them came from the Khazar Empire, and there's no actual traceable roots from there to Semitic ties. So
no, that's not true.
Well,
even Ashkenazi Jews that have mixed blood still have a significant amount of Levantine DNA. That Khazar theory is BS.
It's really not. You clearly have digested. You say you're wanting to stop like the information war, but you have zero discernment on information. Like you are basically speaking propagandist points to me now from.
You're the one who started off with the propaganda saying that it was a harmonious living prior to Israel.
Well, it was in comparison to what it currently is, yes.
Do you know how much about the harmonious living that you've described?
Well, I've read into it. I wasn't there. Obviously, I was only born in 1985. I can only attest to what I've read and what I've seen in books and in pictures, and so same as yourself, you were not there and not present, so you've garnered your information from, I would imagine, Jewish sources.
No, not just Jewish sources. I come from a religious minority in Egypt. At one point, we were under the Pact of Omar, same as the Jews.
Okay, and what does that mean?
I'm telling you, being a religious minority under Muslim authority sucks.
Well, by no means am I saying that the Muslim rule is better or worse. But I'm just saying that before Israel started to settle, there certainly was more harmonious living. And
which society do you think provided a more egalitarian living? Israel right now, or the way things were run prior to Israel? And there, by the way, keep in mind there was no such thing as Palestinians prior to Israel. That identity had not come into fruition yet.
It depends what you mean egalitarian, because the Western legal system is actually based on the Ten Commandments, so that's a higher authority, and neither have it.
What I'm saying is, the Western legal system. Okay, you can want to say it's based on the Ten Commandments. I'd have to read more.
Well, no, it is. It is like it's not. It is. It just is indefensible. It is based on the Ten Commandments. So,
sure, if you want to say, Judeo-Christian upbringing, I'm not going to fight you on that. But what I mean by egalitarian, what I mean is it more equal, or do people have more equal lives in Israel than they do prior to Israel?
I would
So
say no.
do Arabs and Jews in Israel have a more equal living than what the status quo was prior to Israel being established?
Maybe the few Arabs that actually live in Israel and not in Gaza Strip or on the West Bank or whatever, but the way they treat these Palestinians is horrible. Like, you know, if you reacted to the imagery of October 7th, how on earth have you not reacted to the alternative imagery of the civilian deaths?
I reacted to that for nearly 20 years.
Okay.
I have books of Edward Said, Hassan Nasrallah, and Noura Erakat on my nightstand right now. I reacted to that stuff for 20 years.
You don't have to become the people. I'm talking about like from a sympathetic point of view. You know, just from raw humanity. You know, like the least of us is worth something. You know, what's funny about that?
It's just, you know, knowing what I know from the other side and what they say that they would do to Jewish people and how they wish they could go back to the days of, you know, Umar ibn Khattab.
Have you seen the way Jewish people treat Christians?
You mean like the ultra orthodox that spit on Christians
and throw stones at them, etc. You know,
yeah,
not all. Once again, so I mean, you're saying that that's exclusively going to be under Muslim rulers.
I'm saying it's far, far worse under Muslim rule. You know, you want to bring up how Israel treats Christians. I come from a country where churches are literally blown up. Our women literally get kidnapped, raped, and forcibly converted. So we have to get presidential governmental approval just to repair a church. And when somebody attacks us, when somebody kills Christians in Egypt, instead of actually prosecuting the Christians, what they do, because they don't want to incite them, they don't want to rile up the Muslims more, is they do a forced reconciliation. It's called sulha.
We're talking about Israel, so.
Israel, well, you just brought up, do you think, you know, it's exclusive to Muslims? And I told you no.
You brought it up. You brought it up asking if I think it would be better or more equal under Israel or Muslim rule. I said neither, because neither are based on the Ten Commandments. So,
well, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, just to bring that comparison. Just to bring that comparison. If a Muslim wanted to convert to a different religion in Israel, he could do it without having fear of being killed. All right, under Muslim rule, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Depending whether it's Shia or Sunni.
No, the death penalty for apostasy is the same both in Sunni and Shia. You can observe that in the difference between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Both have the same death penalty for apostasy. That comes from the Sunnah of Islam.
Well, I'm not here to defend the Muslim faith. I'm here to defend humanity. I'm saying that what is going on in Palestine and from October 7th, which you brought up in the, you know, the first instance of your transition, what's happened from that point out has been horrific. You know, I don't know how anybody can stand by the response.
I stand by it because that's exactly what they wanted. You know, Israel didn't force Hamas to take international funds and build a giant, you know, tunnel network so that they could in the future take hostages and, you know, not build bomb shelters for their people. Israel didn't force Hamas to annul the crossings agreement that was signed between the PA and Israel following the unilateral Israeli disengagement from Gaza. That's what Hamas did.
So why is there so many bombings of civilian sites? And I know Israel's talking point is that they use human shields and all these houses are holding RPGs or whatever, but that's just not the case. And in every case, you can't just bomb indiscriminately and take so many civilian lives in the hope that you're taking out a couple of Hamas militants.
Well, Gaza has one of the highest population densities in the world. You know, we have to acknowledge that first. And yeah, Hamas hides underneath while they subject their people to the war above. All right. And they fight from within civilian areas. Huh?
Did Israel take any responsibility whatsoever? No, it's all Hamas's fault.
Yeah, it is Hamas's fault. It is Hamas'
Okay,
fault.
so like the border between Gaza and Israel is like the most protected border ever. Um, so why did it take 6 hours to respond, as it says in the comments? Or like why? You know,
Listen,
obviously there was no order to stand down. They wanted it to happen. I would
Israeli
imagine.
security isn't perfect. It's not, it's not seamless. Bad things happen. They didn't heed the early warnings from people. It was also on a holiday, Simchat Torah, and so they had skeleton crews in the observation towers. Yeah,
As definite
there was a
lift
lapse in
of
intelligence.
9/11 lapses of intelligence. Really, to be fair, it's allowing something to happen for a controlled outcome.
Are you trying to push the theory that 9/11
I'm not trying
was,
to push anything. I'm suggesting that. Well, I mean, if you're asked about 9/11, I think that's cut and dry. Like that, like they were running a mock simulation on the day of the exact same event happening. A building that wasn't even hit by a plane fell at free fall speed into itself, WTC 7. So like it's undebatable that there was conspiracy afoot on 9/11. I'm just saying that this has whiffs off the same. Like the most secure border in the world is stood down for 6 hours. The response is so long. Like why?
Is intelligence lapse. I can't account for everything that, that goes on in the security apparatus for Israel. I know that it happened on a holiday. I know that for years, Gazans who were being brought into Israel for medical treatment and work and stuff like that, that for years they had been taking painstaking detail of, just everything around the kibbutzim and the Gaza envelope. I mean, this was planned for years. So they launched a really, it wasn't an unsophisticated attack. I can't account for what Israel, failed to do on that day.
Well, they had their border unsecured, which is not what they do. It's the most secure border, and it's all of a sudden not secured for 6 hours, and Hamas are able to run amok, and then Israel have carte blanche to do as they please.
So what are you trying to say, that Israel just let it happen purposely?
I'm not trying to say anything in particular.
I mean, that's what it seems like you're insinuating.
Well, I mean, the facts would certainly lead towards that, yes.
No, I don't buy that.
No, they wouldn't. So you think it was just intelligence lapse?
Yeah, I think it was an intelligence lapse, and I also think that Hamas, planned out a very sophisticated attack.
Okay, you're giving a lot of credit to Hamas, and seeing that 9/11 was brought up. What's your thoughts on that? Was that
I never really paid much attention to the 9/11
and...
stuff. I never really paid much attention to the 9/11 stuff, so don't have much of an opinion on that.
It's just a very dramatic shift from pro-Palestine to Zionist. I'm trying to get my head around it because most pro-Palestinian in the West is either coming from because it's trendy to do it, or just out of genuine, like it's inhumane what's happening to them. So how then all of a sudden does it shift to Zionism?
I mean, let me ask you something. Do you think the Palestinians have any agency over what they do?
In what regard?
Like, are they adults who make adult decisions, like declaring war on Israel?
The circumstances within which they've had to live has left them no choice.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, the circumstances, because there's a lot of people who go through, horrible shit, and they don't act like the Palestinians. I brought up my people, Coptic people. You don't see us going around raping Muslim women in revenge.
So
you don't see us beheading Muslims.
The
Kurds go through it. They don't do that shit.
If the last person who lives in your house came back now and took you out and said, sorry, this was mine 5 years ago, you have no right to live here, and just moved you out without any reparation or whatever, are you going to be happy with that? Or are you going to try and fight it, or just take it on the chin?
When do you think the first time they were expelled was?
Who's them?
The Palestinians that you're referring to.
When did they start like being misplaced?
Yeah, displaced, expelled, when they fled. When do you think that happened?
Well, they didn't. It was late 40s, early 50s.
No, so there was a partition plan, right? Posed by the UN in 1947. The Jews accepted, the Arabs didn't. I say the Arabs because they weren't calling themselves Palestinians at the time. Then the Palestinians launched a war against the Jews. And in a war, there's a winner and there's a loser. The Arabs were on the losing side. Some of them fled, some of them were expelled. I'm not going to say none of them were expelled, but they initiated that war.
Once again,
and when you start a genocidal war of choice and you lose...
Now, we all know that the term genocide has been thrown around a lot, especially in recent terms. So can you really call a genocidal war what they launched in comparison to what Israel's doing now?
Yeah,
and
secondly, the focus of that war in 1947 was to wipe out the Jews. I mean, I can go to statements from the leader of the Arab High Command when he said, "Slaughter the Jews wherever you find them, for this pleases God, country, and religion."
Okay, I'll take you back to my original point. If somebody came now who lived in your house previously and moved you out of it and said it's theirs, you have no right to be here, are you not going to fight?
That's not what happened, though. That's not what happened.
Well, I mean, it pretty much is. They started settling.
No, it's not. Not even close. Not even close.
Okay, so please inform us then.
Okay, so up until the Arabs rejected the partition plan, the Jews were purchasing land from Arab landlords, absentee landlords. All their purchases were completely legal. They were not kicking people off their land. What had happened was that you had subsistence farmers called felahin who were working on that land. They didn't own the land. That land is property of either the absentee landlords or the Arab landlords. And then when their land was sold, then they had to leave. That's not me coming saying, hey, you know, my ancestors lived here 3,000 years ago. You have no right to be here. Get the fuck out.
And you fully believe that that's how every Palestinian...
Up until the Arabs launched that war in 1947, that's exactly how it went down.
And then from 1947, that gives them moral justification to do that? Or what? I don't understand the thought process.
I mean, it was an existential war. So yeah, when you start a war, you lose land, you lose your house sometimes. It happens in war. I don't know what makes the Palestinians so special that they're, you know, owed something for starting a war and losing.
They didn't start a war. They were occupied and then they started a war.
When were they occupied?
When the Jews started to settle in Palestine.
Really? Who was in control of the country? The borders of Palestine that, you know, the Palestinians love to show. How far back do those borders go?
I'm not aware of the exact time. I know it was under British colonial rule as
well.
What
did you think the Palestine looked like prior to 1920?
Well, I wasn't there, but I know from what I've read that it was certainly a lot more harmonious than what it currently is.
No. I mean, physically, what do you think it looked like? Borders, stuff like that. What was it divided between? Do you think there was like this Palestinian country that existed?
I wasn't there.
No, but you have access to history books. You have access to the internet. These are things that you could have looked up.
Yes, and
right?
As I've said, from what I have looked up in regards to Palestine prior to the 1940s, it certainly was a lot more harmonious.
Well, history goes back a lot further than 1940.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of a review, all right? In 1920, there's the San Remo Conference. At that point, Palestine was considered the area, you know, between the Mediterranean Sea and what is now called Jordan. At the San Remo Conference, the British cut up Jordan, which was 78% of the mandate, and gave it to an Arab tribe from Hejaz. And so then what was left of Palestine was from the Mediterranean Sea to the West Bank, to the Jordan River. Okay. Prior to that, there was no such entity called Palestine. What they referred to as Palestine was divided into 3 areas: Vilayet Beirut, Vilayet Damascus, and Mustafarat, Jerusalem. It was not at all a cohesive unit. People back then did not identify as Palestinian. They identified by perhaps city or their religion. Al-Nablisi, Al-Maqdisi, those are how people identified. These things are important to know when you want to get into this conversation.
Well, as I say, like I have read in regards to prior to 1940s, so I am aware of like the societal state. I wasn't there to see how it looked, obviously.
Yeah, but you said that the Jews occupied them.
Well, they did start moving in and settling after.
That's not
the Balfour
occupation.
Agreement
It
was
was legal
settled.
migration. It was legal migration. Like their entire migration towards that area, towards that land, was completely legal. That's what the San
That
Remo
doesn't
Conference was all about.
necessarily mean correct, though, does it? And I mean, their actions and towards the people that they're moving into evoke the war. Do you know what I mean? They have no assimilation, or they have no desire to go side by side with their neighbor. They want a Jewish state, you know.
No, that's true. That's not true. That's not true at all. For the partition plan, the what would then become the Jewish state, had the Arabs accepted the partition plan, would have contained a substantial Arab minority, something like 40, maybe even 45% Arab minority in what would have been the Jewish state, Israel, had the Arabs accepted the partition plan. And for something that people love to frame as a religious war, keep in mind the partition plan for 1947. The Jews accepted a plan in which Jerusalem would have been an international city, okay, and Hebron, the site of their second holiest location, would have been in the Arab country. So the idea that they did not want to coexist at all, completely false.
It's not completely false. I mean, they've been thrown out of over 90 countries for their lack of assimilation.
All right, dude, I'm done with this.
Well, that's factual information. There we go. When you challenge a Zionist, they hang up. Oh well. Thank you very much for tuning in anyway, guys. And we're not anti-Semitic here. We're just anti-war. And it's horrible what's currently going on. And October 7th does not justify the absolute slaughter. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics of the sphere, Working overtime to bring you many stories. Waking up today, the same labor and Tories. A stage it is, and our part to play is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact. Much like the words on those Christian tracks.